establishment. Authorization for a hearing.
Motion to accept recommendation.
Second. Got a motion, Mr. Ron, second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
All right. Next is complaint 2016067091, 2, and 3 against an establishment, its funeral director, who is also an embalmer. A complaint was filed by a competitor of the establishment alleging respondents said misleading or fraudulent statements about the competitor and its employee to a consumer, solicited dead human remains, and attempted to get a family to break an agreement with the competitor establishment. The complaint included a signed letter from the consumer that stated she received a phone call from the respondent funeral director after her mother died in July 2015. She states the funeral director told her he needed a release from her to pick up her mother from the hospital and that they needed to make time for paperwork, which confused her because she thought her family had already signed paperwork and paid. The consumer writes that she told the funeral director that her family dealt with the competitor, to which he responded the competitor is a storefront-only business and does not have a crematory on site. The response, submitted on behalf of all respondents, stated that a mix-up must have occurred by either the hospital or family for the consumer's contact information to have reached the respondent. Legal's note, the respondent and the competitor have very similar establishment names. The respondent stated that at some point the funeral director would have called about picking up the deceased and provided with the consumer's phone number in order to have called her in the first place about picking up her mother's remains. The funeral director called her after being provided her contact information and advised her that he had not received a release to pick up the body. The funeral director was confused why the consumer named the competitor funeral director and stated honestly that the person named by the consumer did not work for his establishment. It was the funeral director's understanding that the establishment named by the consumer did not own their own crematory and operated out of an office, and while the phone call from respondent funeral director unquestionably upset the consumer, the funeral director might not should have made those comments, but he did not violate any statutory rule regarding that information. Respondent funeral director also indicated a civil suit has been filed involving the same parties over this phone call. Legal recommendation is to close with a letter of instruction.
Motion to accept counsel's recommendation. Second. A motion by Mr. Duffer, second by Mr. Cochran. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next, please.
Next complaint is number 2016072661 against an establishment. Upon inspection of the establishment on August 16, 2016, it was discovered the establishment failed to complete required items on the release of cremated remains contained in one decedent's file, specifically the date of release, time of release, person receiving the remains, and the person receiving the remains on behalf of the establishment. In its response, the establishment stated the document was in the office at the time of the inspection, but was not in the file at the time of inspection as it was left in a file bin to be scanned. It also stated it has implemented a process to verify all cremation paperwork is completed and regrets the mistake. Legal recommends to close this case with a letter of warning.
Motion by Mr. Ron, second by Mr. Bridges. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next, please.
Next case is number 2016072071 against an establishment. A complaint was submitted by a consumer that stated her father had passed away on September 10th, 2016, and as of the filing of the complaint on December 1st, 2016, the complainant had not received the death certificate. The complainant was told the doctor did not sign the death certificate and it would have to be reissued, but she did not receive follow-up from the establishment. In its response, the establishment stated it sent the death certificate to the doctor's office in September to be signed, but was not given an answer despite multiple contact attempts. The establishment was issued the signed death certificate on December 14th and mailed it to the establishment provided a copy of the death certificate with its response. Legal recommends closing this case with a letter of warning, specifically about the funeral rule where an establishment shall not unreasonably delay the filing of a death certificate.
To accept council's recommendation. Second. Motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Cochran. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Next, please.
Next case is number 2017-001521 against an establishment. On inspection of the establishment on August 23, 2016, the following violations were discovered. The establishment failed to disclose, as required by the funeral rule, that the price higher than the price the establishment paid the third-party crematory. A random sample of files revealed that 6 out of 20 files, the crematory fee was $100 higher. The establishment paid the crematory. Also, 4 of the 6 decedent's files did not list the crematory charge in the cash advance section as required by the funeral rule, and was instead listed under goods and services. The inspector noted that the violation regarding cash advances and cash advance markups is a repeat finding from the August 19, 2015. Response, the establishment stated that there was confusion among its staff pertaining to whether a crematory fee should be noted as a cash advance item. It stated the crematory fee charged by the establishment was not a cash advance item and was included in the cremation packages offered by the establishment and purchased at need. Legal recommends a civil penalty for $250 and authorization for a hearing.
Motion to accept.
Second. Motion by Mr. Baum, second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next.
Next case is 2016-076321 against an establishment. The complaint was filed by a consumer who alleges the establishment committed advertising violations on 7 occasions. The establishment, in its response, stated it would be helpful to know the exact violation it is supposed to have committed. State there is a $5 price on the general price list compared to the price advertised. Discrepancy between the rental casket shown compared to its general price list, and this price has also been changed. And services does not include a specific price and includes an itemized listing of each and every item, procedure, or service and shows the price of the particular item. The advertisement states, complete funeral package, $3,990, and direct cremation only $795, and states funeral services include basic services of funeral director and staff, embalming, dressing, casketing, and/or cosmeticizing of the deceased, transfer of the deceased from place of death to our facility, funeral service at the other facility, 1-hour visitation prior to the service at the other facility, use of funeral coach, hearse, and 20-gauge non-gasketed casket available in copper, blue, or silver. Legal recommends a civil penalty for $250 and authorization for a
Motion to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Question. Else in the end of the history of the open case, is that still?
Yes, that is one of the cases I read earlier.
Motion by Mr. Duffer, second by Mr. Cochran. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carried. Next, please.
Next one is number 2016-076511 and 2 against a funeral director and an establishment. Upon inspection of the establishment on September 1st, 2016, the following violations were discovered. Let's see, the funeral director signed off on 2 death certificates and waited on families of 3 deceased persons while his funeral director license was expired from July 1st through July 25th. In his response, the funeral director stated that upon receiving his license renewal notice, he placed it in a drawer and forgot to pay it. Upon being notified of the lapse on July 19th, he paid the renewals and penalty fees. He stated that he and the establishment have not had a violation and would never intentionally not pay the fees on time and simply overlooked it in this case. Due to their lack of complaint history, legal recommends to close each of these with a letter of warning.
Move to accept council's recommendation. Motion by Mr. McKinney and second by Mr. Bridges. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next, please.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, my name is Pam Spicer. I have the remaining complaints. We will pick up with number 11, 12, and 13. That is 2016-076301 against the establishment, number 2 against the funeral director, 03 against the embalmer. This is a competitor complaint regarding whether there was improper contact between a funeral home and the decedent's family. The funeral home did respond, and there was no proof of any improper communications regarding solicitation of a dead human body. As you see from the history, there is no history with any of the funeral home, the funeral director, or the embalmer, and we are recommending closure.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ron, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, please.
Next, number 14 and 15, that's 2017-000901 against the funeral director and 02 against the establishment. This was pursuant to an inspection. The funeral director's license was found to have been expired. Further, the funeral director provided services during the time the license was expired. In response to the notice of violation, the funeral director responded that it was a mistake and the license was immediately renewed. Our recommendation is closure with a letter of warning to both the funeral director and the funeral establishment.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cochran, second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, please.
Number 16 and 17, which is 2016-069821 against the funeral director and 22 against the establishment. This is another expired license situation. Pursuant to inspection, the funeral director's license was found to be expired, and he also was found to have rendered services without a valid license. In response, the funeral director acknowledges the mistake for failure to renew and immediately renewed the license. We're also recommending closure with a letter of warning to the funeral director and the establishment.
Motion to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, please.
Numbers 18 and 19, 2016-071281 against the establishment and 82 against the apprentice funeral director. Pursuant to inspection, an apprentice funeral director was found to have executed documents that can only be executed by a licensed funeral director. In response, the funeral director and the apprentice stated they were not aware that the apprentice could not sign a permit for cremation and apologized for the error. For the error. We are recommending a formal hearing and settlement by consent order with a $250 civil penalty to the establishment and a letter of warning to the funeral director.
Motion to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Duffer, second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, please.
Numbers 20 and 21, 2016-069731, funeral director, and 32 against the establishment. This is also pursuant to inspection. A funeral director was found to be operating on an expired license and found to have been providing services without a valid license. In response, the funeral director stated it was an oversight on his part and also has immediately renewed his license. We are recommending the same recommendations as the other cases with closure of a letter of warning both to the funeral director and the establishment.
Accept council's recommendation.
Second.
A motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next.
Numbers 22 and 23, 2016 074401, establishment, and 02 is against the funeral director. This is a consumer complaint alleging that the funeral home failed to provide the remains of the deceased to the family in a timely fashion. Specifically, the deceased's date of death was October 23rd, 2016. The memorial service was November 4th, 2016, but the body was not available at that time due to a delay in the ability to schedule the cremation. The body was not removed from the hospital until November 11th, 2016. According to the response provided by the funeral home, the body was stored in the prep room of the funeral home from November 11th, 2016 until it was cremated at the crematory on December 14th, 2016. It was then mailed to the family on December 15th, 2016. This is a total of 52 days between the date of death and the date of cremation. The recommendation by our office against the establishment is to authorize formal hearing, authorize settlement by consent order with a $2,500 civil penalty. This is due to multiple violations of misrepresentation, fraud, and deceptive acts towards the family. Against the funeral director, we are also authorizing formal hearing, settlement by consent order with a $1,250 civil penalty for multiple violations of misrepresentation, fraud, and deceptive acts towards the family.
Can you have a reason for the delay?
Between November 11th and December 14th, no. The reason for the initial delay, they are saying, was the inability to schedule the cremation. I would say we have not received a sufficient response as to why there was a 52-day delay. I have spoken to the hospital and did confirm the November 11th date, and we do have the response from the funeral home stating that the body was stored in their prep room and not cremated until December 14th.
Or if they use a local crematory for their cremations, or?
I would have to look up the name of the crematory. I can't remember specifically who it was, but I think it was someone local. Mr. Gribble may know.
They do, Mr. Ron. They use one in the same county in which the funeral home is located.
Would this funeral director be the manager also, or is it different?
It is. It is the same person.
Okay.
Motion to approve council's recommendation.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Vaughn and a second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. That completes the legal report.
Thank you, Mr. Renfro. At this time, we'll turn the program over to Robert Gribble for the director's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing is, I want to discuss with you is the performance audit update. Of course, this is the performance and compliance audit by the Comptroller of the Treasury, Division of State Audit. It's still in process. We continue to meet with the auditor and supply information to him, and as he asks questions. Had a little bit of conversation as to what might be the time frame, and probably in the next 2 or 3 months it's coming to, it's a typical audit, because we sunset, they always do an audit the year before, so it's a typical audit, and they've been very cordial and very easy to work with, and we've been very good to them, we hope, tried to supply the information they requested in a proper time frame. Legislative update. On your iPad, the first page there will be there are 4 bills that I would say directly, and I think legal counsel agrees with me, directly affects this board. And then behind on the second page is the link where you can go and search for those bills or any other bill on a legislative bill search. And then after that is an actual copy of each bill. After the meeting today, I'll email this information. Ms. Mosby, I will, so you'll have it at home in case you want to go to this link and look it up. But to make you aware of what's pending at the current time that we're aware of and we know of, the initial bill filing is passed, so typically these are the bills that we'll be dealing with this legislative session. First bill, Senate Bill 0019, House Bill 0993, as introduced, prohibits the disposition or removal of human remains unless authorized by a person legally entitled to control such disposition or removal, with certain exceptions. This is a bill that we've been making you aware of in previous meetings that basically has to do if an initial funeral home is contacted and a subsequent one is chosen, how to do that transfer. Senate Bill 0428 and House Bill 0471, as introduced, removes the Social Security number from the information that a funeral establishment must include on the permanent identification device attached to a dead human body prior to interment. There are four things now on a permanent identification device: the name of the decedent, date of birth, date of death, and Social Security number. This bill simply removes the Social Security number. I understand that it may be a privacy concern for some of the funeral homes, and that's the reasoning. However, please note that it doesn't remove it from the cremation. If from a cremated body, the next section down in the law statute requires the Social Security number, and I assume that's probably a drafting oversight, and we'll probably see an amendment somewhere that will also remove the Social Security number from the permanent identification device of cremated remains as well. Senate Bill 0611, House Bill 0624, as introduced, defines funeral directing to include directing or supervising of other commemorative services in addition to the existing services provided by law, such as supervising funerals, preparing dead human bodies for burial, disposing of dead human bodies, maintaining a place for the care of dead human bodies, and other services. This is a very broad bill that does not, within the bill, define commemorative services. So we'll probably see maybe some more defined information on that as the legislature process works and goes through the process. Senate Bill 1305 and House Bill 1217, as introduced, requires that of the 10 hours of continuing education coursework required for the renewal of a license of a funeral director and embalmer, 5 of those hours must be attended in person, which means the coursework is either completed in the physical presence of the provider of the coursework or through an interactive virtual program that requires participants to confirm their presence during the program. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, that it does not change those that are affected, the people that were initially exempted from continuing education who were licensed 10 or more consecutive years on October 1st, 1990 or previously. It still exempts those people, and it also still exempts the people who turn 65 years of age as you turn 65 years of age. It doesn't affect that. So those are the bills that we're aware of. I don't know if Ms. Hooper has anything she wants to add to those, and we'll be glad to entertain any question you might have providing those. And again, we'll send you the link, or we'll send you both of these documents.
I have nothing to add unless you all have questions. Okay, thank you.
Next is the licensee report. It's a report of license administratively approved by the Executive Director pursuant to Board authority for the period of December 13, 2016 through February 13, 2017. You can see the funeral homes listed there, and 3 of them involve a change of ownership, and 2 of those involve, well, 1 involves an ownership and a name change, and 2 are ownership and 1 a name change. And then the list of the individuals whose license were approved by reciprocity, and those who have served their apprenticeship and gotten their license as well. Closed establishment report. There's 1 establishment reported closing since the last board meeting, Lakeway Cremation Center, which was located at 1028 West Main Street in Morristown, has sent us notification of their closure. Action report. The report of consent orders administratively accepted or approved by the Executive Director pursuant to Board authority for the period of December 1, 2016 through January 31, 2017. Really Actually, the one that's listed is a suspension of the funeral director and embalmer's license for failure to comply with TCA 36-5-706 or TCA 56-1-313, so that is either, well, in this particular case, it was student loans, where they were not current on their student loan. But those two statutes either involve student loans or child support. Anytime that a licensee fails to be compliant in those, when we get the letter, we're required to immediately do the suspension, and they have to get back in compliance in order to get their license reinstated. The complaint report for today's meeting, number of complaints, you'll see that there are 5 that regard a funeral director and/or an embalmer, and 26 that regard an establishment, for a total of 31 complaints. Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you or any board member have, and if you don't have any questions, that concludes my report.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion, Mr. Warren, second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is approval of license applications. Individuals.
Mr. President, you have one individual to come before you today, and he will come up, and I will probably mispronounce his last name, but it's Richard Lawrence Gallus III from Spring Hill, Tennessee, who is applying for a funeral director and embalmer license today, and you might want to specifically examine, among other statutes, the applicability of Tennessee Code Annotated 62-5-317, making the determination today. Mr. Richard, if you'll introduce yourself and properly pronounce your last name, and I apologize for, I know I butchered it.
That's okay. Richard Lawrence Galwad III.
Okay, and Mr. Edwards, introduce yourself.
My name is Rodney Edwards.
May kindly make an opening statement to the board, Mr. Richard.
Yes, sir. I'd really like to become a funeral director and embalmer. It's something I wanted to do for a lot of years. However, I had a chemical dependency issue. Got sober about 8 years ago. February 5th made 8 years for me. The treatment center I went through, I did so well, so I decided to pursue my life.
Are you currently employed by funeral home?
Yes, sir. I work for West Harpeth Funeral Home. I've worked with Family Legacy for the past 2 years.
Okay.
While I was going to school, I worked at Harpeth Hills as needed, and then about 6 months there I did part-time.
On your application, you marked that you have been convicted or have entered a plea of guilt or no contest for either a felony or a misdemeanor. Can you kind of give us?
Yes, sir. I did 2.5 years in the state of Louisiana for purse snatching. The letter that I wrote was rather vague because I don't remember doing it. The charges that I got, everything I know is from what I can tell you today I'm a totally different man than I was when that happened. That happened, and I got out of the prison in 2004, January 8th, 2004.
I could speak for just a second. I would say that Rick has done a fabulous job. He does a good job with our families. We trust him implicitly. He's earned that trust, and we're grateful to have him, would love to have him working as a funeral director for us.
I'm assuming Mr. Gregory knew of your history before you were hired?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was, in the state of Louisiana, they have a first offenders deal. Out of trouble for so long, you know, you earn your rights back, right? Have to put on a job application that I'm a convicted felon, but
that.
thank you.
Your current status with Johnny Gupton, when do you finish, or have you?
I completed, yes, sir, I've completed my my apprenticeship with Wes Harpeth. I waited till I graduated Gupton before I did my apprenticeship. I graduated with honors over there. I was a student rep.
Then I'll make a recommendation that we grant the applicant.
Motion by Mr. Ron, second by Mr. Bridges. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Congratulations. I'll call you Mr. Rick.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day.
Yes, sir.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And you too.
We'll send you an email, give you license numbers and all those, hopefully today, if not today, tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let us know if we can help you.
Next item will be establishment and approval for licenses.
Mr. President, there's one establishment to come before you today, a proposed establishment of Rest Haven Memorial Gardens. Proposed manager would be Shannon Doyle Parks, to be located at 2642 East Highway 25/70 in Dandridge, Tennessee. It's a new establishment. The ownership would be a corporation, and the owners would be Claiborne Family Properties Incorporated, which would be located at the same address. Mr. Bruce or Mr. Parks or any of you three gentlemen, whoever wants to speak, just, if you will, each one of you introduce yourself for the record.
Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to disclose that I know the applicant, and I don't have a problem with objectivity. His manager, proposed manager, is a former employee, and if I need to step down, I will.
You're going to recuse yourself from the vote?
I don't feel that I'm not objective, but if it's a conflict, if the board thinks it's a conflict, I'll step down.
I would appreciate that, just to avoid the appearance of a conflict today.
Mr. Bridges will be recused from this vote, but please join in any discussion or questions.
Mr. President, I think Ms. Hooper can correct me, but I think if you recuse yourself, you completely recuse, you don't participate in discussion or voting, correct?
That's correct.
My apology.
The department's just very strict, as you gentlemen know, having filled out those conflicts of interest statements today, even though Mr. Bridges says that, you can still be objective, they just don't want any appearance of impropriety, so they probably take it a level or two to the right of normal.
I'd rather overplay it anyway, so. John?
My name is Bruce Claiborne.
My name is Shannon Doyle Parks. I've been licensed as a Tennessee licensed funeral director and embalmer here in Tennessee since March of 1990.
Slade Claiborne.
Let me add, please, I had forgotten, July this year, I've been
Kind of tell the board about what your application is about today.
We're applying for a funeral establishment application for working with our families for direct cremations.
understand, are you putting in a crematory, or you're just, what?
Not at this time, we're not putting in a crematory, no.
Okay. So is this an establishment that is just going to deal primarily with cremation? Is that, okay.
At this time, cremation only, direct cremation only.
Are going to offer to sell pre-need funeral contracts.
Yes, that is correct.
The plan is to assist with direct cremations only, no services, no memorial services, or?
Just direct cremation services at this time.
Mr. Gorbel, I guess it's my understanding if they receive an establishment license, that is not specified in that license. They could do, if they wanted to offer other types of services, their license is, it's not specified just a direct cremation. It's an establishment license, correct?
That's my understanding, Mr. Vaughn, that our licensure system is either issue a funeral establishment license or not issue. When you issue the establishment license, that allows the facility to perform any service at any establishment. It doesn't confine it in any way, is my understanding, yes.
That is correct. It's a full license, so they'd have the ability to do anything so long as they complied with other statutes in doing so.